If you're constantly reading another book or taking another course and you still don't have the clarity you feel you need to move forward, then this episode's for you.
Welcome to Follow the Calling.
Be confident in knowing how to get the results you want.
Be secure in knowing who you really are.
Be inspired by the possibility of the difference you're here to make.
Follow your calling and experience true fulfillment. So welcome to another episode of Follow the Calling. And where we want to start is just to say that learning more is the worst way to create the change that you're looking for in your life. So I'd like to ask you, whether you're driving the car or watching us on YouTube, wherever that is, raise your hand if you've ever thought, I don't know enough yet. Or, yes.
2 hands going
I just haven't learned the right thing yet.
Yeah.
And that has led you to, really where that gets you is things just aren't going the way that you would like them to in your life. So you've chalked that up to needing to learn more. Mm-hmm. And so you seek out the next, New York bestseller book in personal development, or the next hot course that everybody's talking about online.
And I think as well, is like we a lot of the time, these things that we take on are kind of a reaction to a problem that we have in our life. So we decide that like something needs fixing.
Yes.
We're not where we want to be in our life. And so we look to the course or the book to fix that, or at least show us what to do. What is it we can do that will take this problem away from us? What's the solution? And we're looking to the course and the book or whatever it is that we're doing, the retreat, yet another live event, or, whatever it is that we're doing, we're spending time, money and energy on to find out what is it we can do that will get us to where we want to be. And a lot of the time we don't even know where we want to be. And maybe we're just kind of looking to these things, these books, these courses, these events, retreats, whatever it is, to even give us some kind of clarity on that. And it is, I think that's what we're looking for, isn't it? We're looking for clarity. We're looking for clarity so that we can finally commit and move forward. And yet we do these things, we do these courses and read these books, and we might feel we have lots of aha moments. And it's like, brilliant. Yes, now I understand why I've been getting the results I've been getting. Oh, okay, good. And then the course finishes, and then you're back to your life. And very, very quickly, that aha wears off. And we find ourselves going straight back in to needing to learn something else. And inevitably then we're putting ourselves in the flow of information coming our way, other people saying, oh, have you done this course? Have you read this book? And we never really focus enough to head in one direction. Do you know? And that's certainly been our experience in the past, hasn't it, Tiff?
Right. So you're finding yourself stuck, lost, and still unfulfilled because you know that you're not living to your highest potential. And I think that is a big motivator there too of, you're not living to your highest potential. So there's got to be something out there that's going to help you get there. But, as you're talking, I'm thinking, in my own experience, I have been this person. I've read tons and tons of books, consumed lots and lots of them, done courses, been to retreats, gotten certifications in multiple things. Also, like you said, kind of trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. And then also trying to fix things in my life that weren't going the way that I wanted them to go, didn't look the way that I wanted them to look. And it's just been there's a time in my life when that was just a cycle on rinse and repeat. And then you go to these things too, right? These retreats, or you complete these courses or these books. And well, this is another thing. Like, some of them maybe you actually completed. How much of the stuff in them did you actually implement? You know, you read these books. How many of the exercises did you actually stop and take the time to do?
Yeah.
Or maybe you have a course that you paid for and you have only ever logged in once and watched the first section.
Right. Yeah. So yeah,
and you haven't even been back to it.
It's common that we don't even finish the courses, right? Like, you know, it's like, it's common that we don't even finish these things that we say that we're committed to. And there's something going on there. What's happening? There's some kind of manipulation going on there in the background there that is having us continuously change direction.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So, well, let's just talk a little bit about why it is that we think that this happens. Why it is that we're constantly finding ourselves seeking more information, feeling like we need to know more before we can make a decision, or before we can make a move, or before we can have the life that we really want. Right. So and again, this is really from my personal experience, but I really feel like there is an incremental disconnect from who we really are as we grow up and in this society, as we grow into society. And there is a way that is kind of a path that is laid out for us to follow. And the more we're kind of encouraged to go down that path, the more that voice, that internal driver, I think what I call who we really are, our intuition, becomes quieter and quieter because we constantly ignore it. Yeah,
we get further away from it. That's why it's not getting quieter, but we're getting further away from it.
Sure. You could look at it that way too.
Yeah.
So, it's just something that we have learned to kind of put in the background. And so we just don't pay attention to that. So I feel like that builds this, a lack of trust with ourselves. So there is an increased level of doubt when we do hear it.
Yeah.
In following that. And then, you were talking about manipulation there, right? So there is a heavy degree of manipulation that's happening by what we would call the secret identity. So this is the part of you that, how do I want to describe this? This is the part of you that has you living into the values of society, has you following what other people are telling you that you should be doing, have a happy and successful and fulfilled life, or any number of other things, actually. But
because you were saying earlier about, we're encouraged more and more to go down this path. There's another side to that. We're also scorned for not going down that path.
Right.
So not only are we actively encouraged to go down there, but we're scorned if we don't. And then that obviously, can quite naturally breed a fear of rejection. That fear of rejection has us doing things, making choices and decisions in our life that aren't really our own. They're the choices and decisions of this machine that's, just moving forward, that we call society. But really, it's like that is only happening because everybody's allowing it to happen. It isn't a thing in itself. It's just a collection of lots of people who have either made the decision to act for themselves or not. They're either living their life consciously or not. And the secret identity, as you were saying, is to disconnect from living consciously and allow life to just sweep you along. So you find yourself being like a leaf blown around in the breeze, swept around by your circumstances, the will of others, and other people's opinions and wishes tend to be what drive you more in your life rather than what you really want. And so we find ourselves being unfulfilled, right?
Yes, becoming the person that everybody else wants you to be.
Hmm.
And that's who we effectively are in our lives, the person that everybody else wants us to be. That's the secret identity.
And why do they want us to be like that? They want us to be like that not because they want the best for us, right? Now, this isn't a conscious intention that people hold. It's not that they want the worst for us or they want to manipulate us, but it's highly inconvenient to have lots of people who won't agree with you and won't do what you want, right? So the part of them that wants to maintain control of their circumstances and their environment comes out, and it's quite natural and it's quite human, and there's nothing wrong. But the point is, the result that it gets is it tries to manipulate people into doing what they want you to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens if people don't like other people stepping outside of the norm, because then it brings, what does it bring? It brings uncertainty. It's like they can't predict what's going to happen, so they feel like they're out of control, and so therefore now, quite understandably, they try to control those circumstances, and then that's when we get scorned for not going down the expected normal, in inverted commas, path.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
But
so
then we're doing the same because we're complicit by allowing it to happen. We are complicit in that problem. So this isn't about blame. This is about understanding the issue and taking full, radical personal responsibility for what's happening, and also holding on to holding a certain level of compassion why this happens with other people, why other people do have expectations of us. It isn't because they don't want the best for us. It's just that it triggers the part of them that feels scared, that feels afraid, that feels uncertain, and they're dealing with something, and that's why they're trying to put that onto other people to lessen their burden, you know. But we need to take responsibility.
So we've been incrementally disconnecting from who we really are, and like I was saying, it's just building this lack of trust and doubt, and an even easier avenue for the secret identity to manipulate us. Yeah. And so we keep searching for the answers. Right. We keep searching for the answers. And halfway going through this course and reading that book without doing the exercises and getting that certification or going to that retreat and then coming home and just stepping back into our regular lives without actually implementing anything from that. And this is all keeping us stuck in procrastination, avoidance, and distraction. And keeping us in that space of the secret identity.
Yeah, it keeps us susceptible to distraction. That's the thing. It's like it makes us susceptible to being distracted by these shiny objects along the way that veer us off of the path. We were going down this road that we thought we were committed to. And I want to speak a little bit about commitment in a minute, because that I feel is a key part of this problem. But we thought we were going down this road that we were committed to, and all of a sudden we wake up and find ourselves, what's happened? We seem to have sleepwalked off the path, and we've come to our senses, and we're miles off of where we wanted to be. And what's happened is we've let ourselves become susceptible to distraction and those shiny objects, chasing these things that feel easy and expedient rather than them being the right thing for us at the time. And sorry, just to come back to what I was saying about commitment. Yeah,
sure.
Because I think that this is really, this is really the key thing that's going on here, because the reason, if you think about why is it that we take these courses and we read these books, we're looking for clarity, right? We're looking for clarity. What is it I need to do in order to move forward in my life? We're looking for information so that we can actually take some steps. And there's this need for clarity before we move, before we make our move. And it's like, you could say that there's this need for clarity before you commit to taking action. I need to know that it's the right thing to do, or whatever, whatever those
the best
words,
thing to do.
The best thing to do, the right thing to do. Exactly. Yeah. Like the quickest way, the fastest way. I need to know that this is the right thing to do before I do it. And yet we keep looking for that certainty before we take the action. But you see, the thing is, that certainty is not a prerequisite for action. That certainty is a result of taking action, right? So that certainty, that confidence, whatever you want to call it, that ability to commit to the path only comes from the knowing of actually walking the path. You're never, ever going to get that feeling that you really know what you're doing until you actually know what you're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? So to speak to it in terms of commitment, you're like, as human beings, we are always committed. But the question is, what is it we're committed to? That's the question. So if we're looking for clarity before we can commit, and if we're saying, well, if I need certain things in my circumstances to be a certain way before I take action, well, what we're committing to there is having our circumstances dictate what we are and are not capable of. What we're committed to there is not taking action. That's what we're committing to, you know? So to need clarity before we can commit is backwards. We need to commit so that we can get the clarity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I just wasn't sure you were done talking.
Right. Passionate, sorry.
Don't apologize for that, for sure. So there's this idea or belief, you could say, right? That learning more will show you the way. And you've touched on this a lot already, Andy, but I think again, in my personal experience, I definitely thought that. It's like, okay, I want to do this, or I would like to have this in my life, and I just don't know enough, which is why I don't have it. Right? I just don't know enough, which is why I don't have it. So if I learn more, then it will show me how to get where it is that I want to go. But this is really like, we talked about this so much, but this is really like going to the gym and watching others exercise.
Yeah.
It's like just consuming more information or going to the gym and watching people exercise is not going to get you the results that you want.
No, right.
If you want to be fit, you actually need to go into the gym and get on the treadmill yourself. You can't just go there and watch other people do that. Totally. Doing that is like just reading these books or taking these courses and not actually implementing what they're talking about in the book, or bringing something from the course and integrating that into your life.
And that's the thing. We look, don't we, to the books and the courses to show us what to do. But it's the wrong question. You know, look into these things to show us what to do. We don't need, that's not what we need. You know, what we need to know is who is it we need to be in order to get the results that we want, right? So, because otherwise, all we're ever going to be doing is looking to fix the problem. So we're only ever going to create more of the same, because something's happened in the past that's led us to believe there's a problem that needs fixing, right? So here we are in a place where we're like so fixated on the fact that there's a problem, we're not actually understanding that the current circumstances are immovable. The current circumstances are inevitable. They're unchangeable. The current moment is unchangeable. But what is absolutely unwritten is the future. And so by allowing, you know, ourselves to align to a higher possibility, you know, we get to be able to be open to receiving those new possibilities when they occur. But if we're looking to constantly fix the problem, our attention is only on the problem.
Right.
All we're ever going to create is more of the same, because where you place your attention grows, right? Where you put your energy is exactly what's going to grow in your life. And the more you look at the problem, the bigger the problem gets. Right. So constantly trying to fix a problem just creates more of the same.
Well, and it's this resistance to the problem as well, right? You're like, oh, I have this problem and I don't want this problem.
Yeah.
I don't want this thing to be here. So I'm going to do everything that I can to try to get away from the problem. And in doing that, it's like holding on to it. You're just keeping it clenched in tight because you're in so much resistance to it even being there, rather than just allowing
it to shift when it's ready. We're allowing it to leave, right?
Allowing it to leave. Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? You ever seen those Chinese handcuffs?
Yes, right? Exactly.
And the more you struggle, the tighter they get.
Right. The more you don't want them on.
Yeah. Right.
the tighter
the more you don't want them on, the more you have them on. Right?
Yes.
And that's it. That's how it is when we fight our circumstances. Like
Yeah, I love that example. I usually talk about muscles, but that's a really good example.
Yeah.
It illustrates that nicely. So the other big belief here, or one of the other big beliefs here, I think is really, you were talking about this before as well. So I don't have the clarity that I need to commit to making this decision, whatever that is, to move forward, whatever that is for you. Yeah. I need more clarity, which then again takes us down this path of, I need to learn more. I need more information.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, sure. Well, again, it comes back to the commitment thing, and we have to ask ourselves, well, what are we committed to? But, if we're sort of saying, I don't have the clarity to commit to this path that I've chosen, it's like, well, you're not going to get that. Like we were saying, you're not going to get that clarity before you commit. You have to commit first so that you can get the information back from the situation. And doing that, saying that you don't have the clarity to commit, in order to commit, you don't have enough clarity to commit. It's kind of like, let's imagine, say, for instance, someone is offering you 2 ice creams. They're saying, right, you can either have strawberry ice cream or vanilla ice cream.
Neither of which you've ever had before.
Okay, you're right. You've never had strawberry or vanilla ice cream before, but you've heard that both of them are delicious, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I just need more clarity to know which one I should try. Maybe I should go and find out, read a book about ice cream to find out which one is either the most popular or the most nutritious or the most delicious. Maybe I can find out more information about this so that I can make a more informed decision. But it's like, well, if you've never tried strawberry or vanilla, well, what you need to do to get clarity on that is try strawberry or vanilla. So you need to just commit to one of them and make your decision, and make your decision right. By that, I mean, make your decision and stick with it. Just place your flag and commit. And what happens is then you then find out if you like strawberry. And if you don't, then next time you can try vanilla. Or maybe you do like strawberry and then you're wondering what vanilla's like. Well, next time you can try vanilla anyway, right? But the point is, the information as to which one you should have only comes after trying the ice cream, right?
Right. And otherwise, like you were saying, you're just going to stand there looking at these 2 delicious ice creams, reading a book, or looking on your phone, trying to figure out which one is the best for you because you need to learn more. And the whole time they're melting. Yeah, and so by the time you have the clarity that you need, I'm also putting that in quotes, the clarity that you need to make a decision, the ice cream's melted and you no longer have the opportunity.
You no longer have either opportunity. Yeah, the moment's gone. And the reason that opportunity presented itself in that moment was because it was an opportunity in that moment. Just like ice cream, opportunities melt away. We need to, when opportunities come up, it's like if it feels expansive and it feels aligned and, it seems as though it's going to take us down the path of where it is we want to be, we need to have the confidence to commit to it fully. Because like I said before, we are always committed. It's just that what is it we are committed to? right? And if we're not committing to taking action, then we're committing to not taking action. And then we are absolutely in no position to moan about the fact that we're not getting the results we want. Well, we're not taking action. You don't no action, no results. Simple as, right? So we need to commit so that we can get information and feedback from the situation. And you know what? Maybe it won't work. That's the thing, right?
Well, that's true. And the other thing that's just coming up for me here is I can imagine that some people are saying, but I do take action. I take the courses. I read the books.
Yeah.
I've gone to the retreats. I am taking action. And we hear you.
Totally.
We hear you. The thing is that and that is one form of action, to actually do those things. But what are you doing with those? It really, and why are you doing that? I think is the other big question, right? Why are you reading the book? Why are you going to the retreat? Why are you taking the course?
Yeah.
And what is it that you're really committed to in doing that? And I love what you said earlier about aligning yourself with something higher, so that you have something that you're connected with in choosing whatever it is that you're choosing. Because that is the thing that's going to help you to stay the course, help you to not be distracted by the next bestseller, by the next hot course, right? And to get you into a place of actually taking the kind of action that's required for you to embody whatever it is that you're learning. So we're not saying there's anything wrong with learning.
Definitely not.
Here, like learning it's essential, right? Yeah. Learning is essential, but learning just for the sake of accumulating more information is just knowledge.
Totally.
And
it's like earning money and not being able to spend it.
Yes, exactly.
It's completely useless unless you can use it, because that's what makes it useful, is the fact that you can use it.
Right. So it's about taking that knowledge and actually turning it into knowing, embodying that in a way that it does just transform you really from the inside out.
Yeah.
So
because the results you get in your life are a reflection of the actions you've been taking. And if you've been taking very distracted action, you're going to get very distracted results that probably occur to you in your experience as no results. You have got results. You've always got results. It's just that the point is they're not the results you want. And because you've not been connected to a focused path, you can't make head or tail of the results you've been getting. So to get the results that you want, your actions have to align with those results, because if you're constantly changing the direction of your action, then you're constantly going to change. You're spreading your efforts thinly over a large area where the results are going to come back and feel so watered down that you don't even feel like you've had results. It's
like it's going to take you a lot longer to to color in a picture, right? If you are doing pointillism, or basically you can only just put one dot at a time, and it's like one dot here and one dot there and one dot here and one dot there, rather than taking your crayon or whatever and just like coloring in an area in one section at a time. It's going to take you a lot longer to color in that picture if you're spreading yourself all over the place and you don't have that kind of focus, which really comes back to knowing who you are, reconnecting with who you really are, that intuitive piece in you, and this piece that we've been talking about that we've just been disconnecting ourselves from and not paying attention to and not listening to and not trusting, but it's there. And I think the other thing that's really important here is to say that because we have been incrementally disconnected from this, it takes practice. You have to choose to listen to that consciously.
Yeah.
I believe. And I believe everybody, Yes, and that builds the trust muscle. So the more you listen and the more you follow through with what it is that you're feeling pulled to do, then the more you see that there are universe always has surprise parties on the other side of you following what you're being pulled to do.
Following your calling.
But yes, it does. But it doesn't just happen. Like, you've spent years disconnecting and distrusting this thing.
That's a really good point.
But I really believe that everybody has the sense of what it is that I'm talking about, right? Everybody kind of knows what that is, because it's always calling you home. Yeah. It's always calling you home. So it's not that it's disappeared. It's just that people don't trust it. And we have to build that relationship again. We have to build that relationship with ourselves in that way, so that, because that's how you do trust, right? As you build a relationship with somebody.
Trust is earned.
Yes, exactly.
Trust isn't just automatic. Trust is earned. And that's the same whether it's with ourselves, trusting ourselves, or trusting others, or having others trust us. It's always earned. So
we really want to leave everybody in this episode with something that is actually actionable, and a way for you, a really simple way for you to implement what it is that we're talking about, and begin to build this trust muscle with yourself in your own life. And it's a huge, well, I say it's a huge piece. It's a piece of what it is that we do inside the Polaris game that we just pulled out to share in a little bit of a different way, but with everybody on this podcast, because it can be extremely powerful, and it's simple. That doesn't mean that you're going to find it easy. There's always that distinction to be made there, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, it's like anything. It takes practice, right? I mean, we don't just, you think about when you learn to drive. You know, if most people listening to this have probably had some experience of doing something that took some practice. And I just think that learning to drive a car is a good one. You don't just get in the car, turn the key and know how to drive, do you? It takes practice. And even once you know you can drive, and even once you've passed your driving test and you're now legally allowed to drive on the road, you still feel a certain sense of, for some time before it really beds in as second nature.
Right.
There's a large period of time that you feel like you're on hyper alert, because it still feels like this is very new. It doesn't feel natural to you. And you're not,
there are lots of variables and lots of things to pay attention to. And
anything could go wrong at any moment. But after a while, you kind of just bed into that, and it becomes second nature. And before you know it, you're driving places, and you arrive at your destination, and you go, oh wow, how did I get here?
How you got there?
How did I get here? It's like, I feel like I wasn't even driving. Like, especially if you've got somebody in the passenger seat that you're talking to, along the way, you just kind of naturally arrive at your destination. This thing has now been passed off as second nature. It's gone into the subconscious, into the autopilot, if you like, because it's like brushing your teeth. It's like, if you do it every single day, it just becomes so natural that it disappears into the background. There's something you don't even think about anymore. And it's the same in terms of learning to trust that intuitive sense, learning to trust yourself and your own judgment, and that feeling in your body of alignment or that feeling of connection to yourself.
Developing a relationship with who you really are again.
Rather
than the secret identity person that you've been being, like we were talking about in the beginning.
Well,
right.
I really identify with that, because like, I know in the past I really did struggle with learning to trust myself and learning to trust my more intuitive side. I was always more overruled by logic and needing to know before I was taking action. This is something that's very familiar to me, this problem. And it took me a long while to trust, while to trust. But it is true that the more I've done it, the easier it becomes, and it becomes more and more natural. I just really empathize with this needing to know, this need for clarity. It's always been something I've done, but it's always held me back.
Yeah. Right. And that's the point. So the first step really is for is to reconnect.
Yeah.
Ask yourself two really important questions. What results would you like to see in your life? And then the second question is, what are the qualities you admire in others who have those results? So what are the results that you would like to see in your life? And what are the qualities you admire in others who have those results? And I would encourage you to take some time to write that down. And when you write down the qualities of the people that you admire that have the results that you want, boil those down into one word rather than phrases. Like,
so for example, it's like, oh, I really like the way this person makes bold decisions. Well, that's courage. Boil that down to courage. I really like the way that this guy is always showing up to the gym. Well, that's persistence or consistency. It's like, that's what we mean by boiling it down to one word.
And I think the other thing that's important there is it matters what the word means to you.
Yeah.
Right. So even the examples that Andy has just given may resonate with you, or you would be like, well, maybe I would call that something else. Go with that, because it matters what the word means to you. So then the next step is going to be about what we're going to call your quality intention. So you're going to choose one of those qualities and you're going to set an intention to embody this quality into your life.
The quality of the person that you admire, yeah?
Right. The quality of the person that you admire. So it's not about what it is that they're doing, but it's about a quality that you admire within them. And that is the thing that you want to bring an intention around and embody that in your life. Because the thing is, when we recognize, when we recognize and admire qualities in other people, this is a clear indication that that quality resides within you. You have access to that. So
takes one to know
by setting an intention, then what you're going to do is develop this quality. So you're also going to set aside time each morning to reconnect with your intention, which is, it kind of goes back to what we talked about first, is a reconnection with who you really are. Because again, this quality resides within you. So do you want to take the next step, Andy?
Yeah. So just to sort of speak a little bit more into that, it's the fact that, as we said earlier, it's not what you're going to do that's going to make the difference. It's who you're going to be. So the reason these people that you admire have the results they have isn't because of what they do. It's because of who they're being. And this is why we're getting you to look at the qualities that you admire in those people, because these are the things that have got them to where they are. It's not what they did. It's how they did it. It's what's behind the doing. It's the being that was doing the doing.
Who they were being in doing it.
Exactly. So the doing is only as good as the being doing the doing. Right?
Say that 5 times fast.
No, definitely not. So that's why we say, a goal is a place to come from, not a place to get to. And this goal that we're coming from is the intention that we set ourselves every morning. And that intention is that one word that we're reconnecting, that quality that it takes to get the results you want. So then to move into the next step is to actually then take aligned action that is aligned with your intention, is what we mean by that. So we need to lean into that chosen quality and that intention with any action that we take, with any decision that we make. We need to continuously check in with that one intention. And this is why we check in with the intention every morning, to remind ourselves of who it is we're choosing to be.
Yes.
It's going to get us the results we want. Now, this is something we have to do every day. We have to be consistent in doing this. And it's so easy to forget and get disconnected from this when we go out there in life and speak to other people. That's why we have to come back every morning and make ourselves a priority. We need to make us a priority by doing the things that are important for us first. And that means reconnecting with what we want. reconnecting with us, with our intention, and then taking action from that place. What action is going to be the thing that moves the needle the most in moving you towards the results
what
that
you want? Yeah,
exactly. The results that you want, but at the same time aligns with your intention of who it is you want to be. Right?
Yes.
So yeah, and then after that it's the checking in, right, Tiff? Because in taking action, we then get information. It's like, what we were saying about the ice cream. If you try strawberry ice cream, then you'll find out if you like it or not. You might like it, you might not. But the point is, either way isn't good or bad. It's just information. And then that information is something that we can then use to reevaluate the situation about what the next action it is we're going to take. So maybe I'd leave that to you to speak a little bit more about the checking in, Tiff.
Yeah. So the checking in is to ask yourself what's working and what's not working. Is what I'm choosing to do, or does this feel expansive? So, again, we've talked a lot about the gym in this episode, but it really just is a great example. So let's just walk through this, right? Let's say that what you would really like to see in your life is that you feel strong in your body, right? And you look at people that you admire, and you say that, this person, I love her so much because she is just so determined. And she has the results that you want, but you love that she's just so determined. And so that becomes the quality that you choose to focus on. So the quality that you are choosing to embody, the intention that you're setting. So each morning you're going to reconnect with your intention of determination. And now we need to take action. So if what I really want in my life is to be strong, is to feel strong in my body, then maybe, and this could look like anything, right? But maybe this looks like I do go to the gym. I do go to the gym. I make it a point that I'm going to go to the gym, 3 times a week, and I am going to lean into the quality of determination, because that is connecting back to who you really are. And then we get to the check-in point. And now, let's say we're a couple of weeks in, and you've been to the gym 3 times in the first week, and you haven't been at all in the last week. So now what? Now what? Right? Because we were talking about this, the opportunity for manipulation. So, and this is the thing that you have to be really careful of. And the thing that's so very, very important, and I also think the thing that most people don't do is when this stuff kind of happens, it's about, all of the excuses. Well, I got off work late, or the family was somebody invited me to go out to eat, and so I didn't do this, or I woke up late, whatever the things are.
Reasons.
But, right. But the thing is, to get really honest with yourself when you check in, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to spot whether this is actually manipulation, or maybe it's just not aligned with you. Maybe what you thought you want is not actually what you want, and you've just been shooting on yourself. Yeah. And this is, go ahead.
What you were saying about not being manipulated, checking in and being honest with yourself. The question, I keep coming back to it, the question to ask is what is it I'm committed to? And when I'm looking at the results that I'm getting, what do my results show me that I've been committed to? Because if I'm committed to moving down this road and I find myself over here, the only reason I find myself over here is because somewhere along the way, I've committed to a direction that's taken me over there.
Yeah.
Right. So now what am I committed to now? Am I committed to course correcting myself, or am I committed to going on in the same direction that I've been moving, which I didn't think I wanted, but maybe, that's a chance to check in. What is it I'm committed to? That's the question you need to ask yourself to check in. Are you being manipulated by the secret identity or not?
Yeah. And another really good question in the check-in to ask, especially if things aren't going well for you, is, does this feel expansive? Does this feel expansive? So, and I always have a kind of an immediate feeling. And I want to say as well that it's easy to get confused also in asking that question. But I encourage people to just pay attention to what their first response is to that, and trust it, because again, this is part of reconnecting with you. And this is why this question is important. And it's going to help you to steer away from things that are actually shoulds for you and not things that are truly aligned with who you really are. So the last thing that I want to bring up in this check-in bit is that it also, whatever it is that you choose to do, it may feel like things are falling apart.
Yeah. They're not going to plan.
It may feel like things are falling apart, but there is a possibility that things are not falling apart. They're just falling into place. Because again, we've created this version of ourselves, the version of ourselves that is everything that everybody else wants us to be. And maybe in choosing to reconnect with who we really are and have this quality intention and embodying that into our lives, that version of us begins to crumble.
Definitely.
And so that may feel really uncomfortable, but we want to encourage you to stay the course. But this is why it's important for you to check in, because any one of these things could be happening for you. And I think maybe I already said the last thing, but this is the last thing. The other opportunity that checking in gives you, right, is to acknowledge maybe things are going really well. Maybe you've been more consistent in going to the gym than you have in the last 5 years, right? So yeah, what's working for you there? And taking a moment to have to acknowledge and to have a space of gratitude for what's happening there. And then maybe there's an opportunity for that even to evolve into something greater for you.
Yeah. Does it feel expansive to be doing more of that? Because if it's working and you do more of it, then the likelihood is that it might get you closer to where you want to be quicker. So maybe you want to be doing more of that and less of something else that isn't working quite so well. And just to speak a little bit more about like checking in with what's not working, if something isn't working, that is absolutely not for us to use to beat ourselves up with.
Absolutely.
We do not make ourselves wrong for falling off the wagon, or like, let's take it back to the gym, right? If we found ourselves, okay, we've not gone to the gym, we've not ended up going to the gym for the past week, rather than beating ourselves up about the fact we've not gone back to the gym in the past week, let's take a look. The fact we've not gone to the gym for the past week is just information.
Yes.
But let's not make it mean that we're a failure. Let's not make it mean anything. It's just information. If you just allow it to be information, then you can look at it objectively and say, okay, so what do I want this to mean? How can I use this information to benefit me? So that's why we check in, okay, why is this happening? This is happening. There's no getting away from that, because to beat yourself up about it is to resist the current circumstances.
The week is already gone. You can't go to the gym that week now.
Yeah, right. It's gone. There's no use crying over spilt milk, right?
Right.
So it's gone. That's gone. So how can we use that constructively? It's just information that we get to use to check in with what it is we do next. Maybe we do recommit to going back to the gym. Maybe we choose to go, you know what?
I'm just
now,
shooting on myself.
I'm just doing this because I think I should. Yeah. And it's like, I actually feel that I'm much more committed to something else. And
Right.
again, it's like that there is the point. If you're constantly changing direction and never really going forward, there is going to be some manipulation going on. But at the same time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with changing your mind and changing your direction. Even if you've spent a long while investing yourself in one direction, if some information comes along at some point that suggests to you in some way that you should at least consider changing direction or changing course in some subtle way, then, or even in a drastic way, then it needs to be considered.
Yeah. You need to check in. You need to ask yourself the questions. What am I committed to?
Exactly.
Does this feel expansive?
What do you want? What do you want? Exactly.
What do I want? Yeah. That's exactly right.
What do you want? And what is it? To get what I want, what would I have to commit to in order to get there? Who would I have to commit to being in order to get there? So we ask ourselves the question, what do I do? The question we need to ask ourselves is who I need to be.
Yeah. And so there's one point that I really want to reiterate is this idea of not making yourself wrong for not doing the things, because this is what people do. And this also contributes to why we never get the results that we want in our lives. And it's why in the Polaris game, it's all about playing and exploring. So I want to encourage all of you as well to just take this on as an exploration. Whatever it is that you're doing here, you're just choosing to play with it. You're just playing. It's not that serious. If it doesn't go the way that you thought it should go, well, then we get to take a look. We get to check in, and which again, we would encourage you to do every day. So, with what's working and what's not working, and asking yourself the questions so that as soon as you begin to maybe be manipulated, or maybe find yourself veering off course, or maybe realizing that this is actually a should for you and not something that you really want, you can make that change as soon as possible, rather than letting it go on for ages and ages and then trying to backpedal your way out of that. You just don't need that. So play and explore and take that perspective on it. It will make things just so much lighter for you.
Definitely. Yeah. If we make things less significant, it's easier to make decisions and commit. It's like, coming back to the ice cream thing. It's right. Like, okay, so if I'm making a major decision in my life, it occurs to me that it's hard to make that decision. If I'm choosing strawberry or vanilla ice cream, it's like, well, that's only different because of how much gravity we've attached to the situation or not, right? And when we're playing and exploring, we take the gravity and the significance out of situations. It doesn't mean that they're less important, but it just means that we're now more willing to be in action and find out for ourselves, rather than needing to know first. Because if we need to know first, then all we're actually doing is worried about looking good or avoiding looking bad. And there's nothing that's going to fulfill us in either of those two things. The need to look good and the need to avoid looking bad, neither of those are fulfilling. All they are a reaction to a fear of rejection. And, what if we could choose freely from our heart, from what actually lights us up in an expansive way, and just choose without significance to just freely commit ourselves fully, wholeheartedly to a line of action that we are now fully alive in what it is we're doing now. We're not worrying about, is it right? Is it wrong? We're now just in action. And therefore it becomes a lot clearer when we get the results back as to what's going on. And we get to now move forward faster in a more focused, intentional way towards the life that we really want, right?
Right. So we don't need to be chasing our tails anymore. We don't need to be trying to find the best course or the best book. We don't need to be finding ourselves stuck in this place of being lost and unfulfilled, knowing that we're not living to our highest potential. It's about connecting again back with who you really are and taking aligned action, which are just giving you something really tangible to go out and play with today.
Of course, you could just sort of take in that information and do nothing about it.
Right. You could just learn more by listening to this podcast.
You could just go and listen to another podcast with other people telling you to do the same thing in a different way and still not do anything about that. Or you could just, actually decide to start putting this into action in your life and starting to move yourself towards the life you actually want.
So I think we will leave you with this quote from Albert Einstein, which is, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of let me just try that again. Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. And again, this is from Albert Einstein.
He knew a thing or two, Albert Einstein, didn't he?
He did.
He wasn't. He knew his onions. He wasn't silly.
So I'll let you close us out, Andy.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us again on another episode of Following the Call In, and just to let you know that we're going to be continuing this conversation in the Guardians Lounge, where that is a conversation that's exclusive to members of our Following the Call In podcast community on Facebook. And in that community, we regularly invite two members of that community to join us in the conversation of the Guardians Lounge. So if you're interested in being part of that conversation, be sure to join the Facebook community and watch our welcome video in that group for further instructions. If you're already in that group, just comment on this podcast to let us know you'd love to join us in the Guardians Lounge. We'd love to have you along.
Absolutely.
If not, just comment and let us know what's coming up for you. What does this conversation we've had here today bring up for you? And just in case you're wondering, you can find the link to that Facebook group in the show notes of this podcast. And if you do like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would be incredibly grateful. And with that, Tiffany, I'll leave it to you to say your piece.
Well, how does it get better than this? And what else is possible? And we will see you guys in the next episode of Follow the Calling.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tiff.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you for showing up for yourself and exploring this space with us. We are a stand for you to follow your calling, whatever that might be.
Be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in playing with the concepts we share on this podcast and you'd like to continue this conversation with us, we invite you to join us in the Follow the Call In podcast community on Facebook, and you can find the link for that in the show notes.